So, today we're going to dive into a text that's over 1,000 years old. But here's the thing, it might just hold a key to one of the biggest, most mind bending mysteries in all of modern science: consciousness itself. Let's see what this ancient philosophy has to say about a question that still has scientists totally stumped. Okay, so here's the big one, the question that keeps physicists and neuroscientists staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. It's what they call the hard problem of consciousness. We know our brains are made of atoms, just physical stuff following predictable laws. But how? How does that clump of cells and electricity produce the actual feeling of being alive, the experience of seeing the color red or hearing a piece of music? And from a purely materialist point of view, it's a real paradox. The idea that matter, just by getting more and more complex, can suddenly spark a mind that is aware of that matter, well, it's a lot like the old story of Baron Munchausen trying to pull himself out of a swamp by tugging on his own bootstraps. It just doesn't seem possible. How can a system create itself out of nothing? And the puzzle just gets deeper. I mean, think about it. If everything is just a long chain reaction of cause and effect, all dictated by the laws of physics, then where does our feeling of choice come from? Our sense of free will? Are we just incredibly complex machines running a pre-written program? Or is there something else going on? It's right here, in this tension, that this ancient text offers a completely different way of looking at things. So let me introduce you to the Siva Sutras. This incredible collection of short, powerful statements or aphorisms offers a totally radical perspective. It's part of the ancient Vedic tradition from India, a tradition that has been wrestling with these exact same questions for literally thousands of years. And this isn't just some forgotten text collecting dust on a shelf. The Shiva Sutras are part of this long, unbroken line of thinking that goes back millennia. And this line of thought was so profound that it even caught the attention of some of the pioneers of quantum mechanics, people like Erwin Schrödinger. He actually saw some incredible parallels between these ancient ideas and the bizarre new world of quantum physics, where the act of observing something seemed to change it. And here it is, the core idea that just flips the whole modern problem right on its head. The Siva Sutras argue that modern science has it completely backwards. See, consciousness isn't something that pops out of the brain once it gets complicated enough. No, consciousness is the fundamental fabric of reality itself. It's the source from which everything else, including the physical world, comes into being. The text kicks things off with this incredibly direct and powerful statement. The very first sutra: consciousness is the self. It's not something your brain has, it's what you fundamentally are. And this one idea is the bedrock for everything else that follows. So you might be thinking, okay, if consciousness is myself, what about all the stuff I learn every day? Well, the sutras make a really important distinction here. What we usually call knowledge is just a bunch of associations, right? A red light means stop. A dog's bark means, well, dog. But what holds all those associations together and gives them any meaning? According to the sutras, that comes from a deeper level, a universal consciousness called shiva, that is the underlying unity, the ground of being that makes knowledge possible in the first place. To really get this, the tradition uses this beautiful, ancient metaphor from the Rig Veda, one of the oldest texts in the world. Imagine two birds sitting on the branch of a tree. They look exactly alike, but one bird is busy eating the tree's sweet fruit, while the other one just sits there, watching, without eating. These two birds, of course, represent the two sides of our own self. The first bird, the one eating the fruit, that's our individual self, our ego. It's the part of us that's busy experiencing the world, tasting its joys and sorrows, learning things. But that second bird, the one that just watches, that represents the universal self. It's the silent, witnessing awareness that's always there in the background, making the whole experience possible to begin with. The sutras then get really practical and map out the states of consciousness we all know. You've got the waking state, where we're taking in sensory info, the dreaming state, where our thoughts just go wild, and deep, dreamless sleep, which the text calls maya, a kind of irrational state. But here's the kicker. The sutras point to a fourth state. This is a transcendent witnessing awareness that's actually present and accessible through all the other three. It completely challenges the idea that consciousness just turns off when we go to sleep. Okay, so if this deeper reality exists, how in the world do we access it? Well, that brings us to the second part of the sutras, which starts with another bombshell of a statement. The mind is mantra. Now, when you hear the word mantra, you're probably thinking of chanting or repeating a sound, right? But this is talking about something much, much deeper.
What this sutra is really saying is that your mind is more than just a computer that processes data from the outside world. It has this innate built-in power, its mantra, to reflect on itself, to turn inward and connect with that deeper, universal consciousness, to connect with that silent, watching bird on the tree.
So the whole point of the spiritual practice described here is to awaken that power. And the sutras use another amazing metaphor for this. They say that when you do, pure knowledge itself becomes your food. Think about that. You're no longer just sustained by the fruits of the outside world, but by the direct experience of your own conscious nature. But if this is our true nature, what's stopping us from seeing it all the time? Well, the text says the big obstacle is something called Maya. But this isn't about the world being some grand illusion. The sutras define it very practically. It's a lack of discernment, basically a deep-seated ignorance or a fog that keeps us from seeing how things really work. So, how do you get past this Maya? Well, the sutras lay out a pretty clear path of transformation, a kind of inner science. It starts with quieting the body and its energies. Then you move to mastering the elements, the basic building blocks of your perception. After that, you learn to withdraw your attention from them. And finally, to realize a total separation, understanding that your core awareness is completely distinct from your thoughts and sensations. And the state you arrive at is described with this awesome metaphor of an inner theater. In this theater, your true self is the actor, totally free to play any part. Your inner mind is the stage where the drama unfolds, and your senses? They're just the spectators, watching the show without getting lost in the plot. And the result of this whole journey? It's profound. By getting past the delusion of Maya, you don't just learn a few new facts. You tap into a boundless innate knowing. You achieve true freedom. The freedom to act creatively, no longer just reacting based on old conditioning and habits. And all of this leads to maybe the most staggering idea in the entire text. Sutra 318 says, "The measure of consciousness fashions the world." Let that sink in for a second. This means the reality you experience isn't some fixed, objective thing out there. It is actively shaped, molded, and defined by the quality and depth of your own awareness. And just to drive the point home, a later sutra says the entire universe is nothing but the aggregate of his powers, the creative powers of the fully realized conscious self. In this view, you aren't just a tiny, insignificant speck in a vast cosmos. You are an active, creative participant in the very fabric of reality. And so, this ancient text doesn't just leave us with a cool philosophy to think about. It leaves us with a direct, personal challenge. A final, powerful question that turns everything back on us. If your consciousness is what fashions your world, then what kind of world are you creating? Right here, right now.